Welcome everyone to Klawd Talks. This is the second episode, and today our guest is KaraLynn Lewis from Netherlands. KaraLynn has a lot of experience in B2B SaaS and partnership. She runs a partnership advisory consulting firm, helping companies scale and build partnership programs. So today's show is gonna be all about partnership. Thank you so much, KaraLynn, for joining us.
Great. Thanks for having me. Good to be here.
So let's begin with the first question. How did you even got into partnership? What was that career journey like? How did you start it?
Yeah. So, like many people in partnerships, I think it was actually somewhat by accident. So, I was always in more commercial roles. That's really where my heart took me. It's what attracted me. And I was actually working for a SaaS company in the Netherlands in a commercial role. But I really felt when I was working in that kind of sales area, I really saw the benefit and the opportunities in working with partners and getting referrals and just cooperating with other companies in the same space. And that was really where the partnership mentality kind of caught me. And luckily, in that time within that company, I got the opportunity to build out the partnerships from scratch. So I made a lot of mistakes. I didn't really know what I was doing at the time, but learned very quickly. And it was a really great opportunity just to have that ownership of that channel. And then, of course, since then, I've done that many more times from 0 to 1, but also for more mature organizations as well. And almost 3 years ago, I started my own consulting firm. Especially since I was building out a lot of partnership programs from scratch, I thought it would be a better model for the customer and then also a very enjoyable model for me to start consulting and do that with multiple customers sometimes at the same time. And so since then, have been helping companies build and improve and gain more revenue from their partnership programs in the SaaS space.
Great. When did you know that it was time to build the consultancy firm on your own? So leaving that job, was it a hard decision? Yeah, because
It
most of the
was a
time it
hard
is.
decision.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It's always something that you question, I think, for sure, as an entrepreneur, because there is that kind of safety in having a company and knowing what you want to do. But it definitely wasn't a decision that I took lightly. It was something that I had thought about for quite a long time. Entrepreneurship kind of runs in my blood. I come from a family of entrepreneurs as well. So it's something that I definitely wanted to do and I felt that I had in me. And as I was building and using a lot of the same sort of techniques and tactics and strategies, and you're seeing the same patterns across companies, after I was seeing those consistent aspects, I thought, okay, now is the time where I really can take this experience and actually apply it to more companies and do it faster. Because something that I found working in-house in companies is often that things do get slowed down sometimes because you are embedded within an organization. Whereas when you come in as an external, you're really able to keep that focus and accelerate and really get things done very quickly. And so that's also a value proposition that I wanted to bring to my customers and felt that the consultancy model really did well with.
So did you have a plan that you will be having a team or you will be hiring contractors when you have a project, or it was just very random, you know?
At first, it was just myself. So I just
Mm.
kind of started off. I was also very lucky that I started with a couple of customers right away. So it was a little bit also just trying things out and seeing what works. I do, of course, have now partners of my own, let's say, to work with as and when needed. But I'm also a fan of working in a very lean way. So by not building out a team and having loads of employees and that sort of thing, I can really keep agile. And at this point as well, the customers that I work with are really working with me personally. So it's not something where I sell a project and then task it to someone else. It's really hands on. I'm a very hands on person. So I also like being able to actually do the work together with my customers and not just pass it on.
So suppose a founder reached out to you and he's an early stage SaaS founder. The company is doing 500K ARR. They are still struggling to find PMF in the market. But the founder keeps on hearing, you should try partnerships. It is a go-to model. What would be the first step that he should take if he reached out to you?
Yeah, I think what I would tell, especially the key thing that you've mentioned there is the not having product market fit yet. So there are exceptions for this rule. And I always say that it's never too early to start thinking about partnerships. But the difficulty is, and what a lot of people miss, is that if you don't have a really solid proposition towards your customers, you don't know who you're selling to yet necessarily, you don't know who your ideal customer profile is, you don't have that sales motion, it's extremely difficult to teach a third party, like a partner, when to bring you in, how to sell you, all of that sort of stuff. It's even difficult at a late stage when you have all of that figured out. So I would very much caution against companies that don't yet have product market fit, that don't yet have a clear ideal customer profile, because it can be focusing a little bit too much externally as opposed to focusing on building the true foundations of a strong organization, which you can then use with partners much more quickly and easily at a later stage. The kind of caveats, I guess, that I would say with that, and why I say it's never too early to be thinking about partnerships, is that you should always have an idea of what your ecosystem looks like. That can also help, of course, in shaping that ideal customer profile and just gets you really familiar with who might be your partners in the future. And early on, sometimes aligning with a strategic partner can be very interesting. So, for example, if you always come across someone in the same space that really aligns with you and you're kind of complementing each other within customers, that could be a really interesting partner for you to engage with even at an early stage. But it's not going to be a scaled motion. It's really going to be that individual one-to-one strategic relationship. So partnerships in that sense is a very broad term, and there are kind of two different ways in that sense of looking at it as well.
Right. I think a lot of confusions occur because there is a lot of partnership types. This is where founders struggle with. We have heard about affiliates, we have heard about strategic long term partnership, technical integration, value added resellers. So, what should guide our decision making when we have so much on the plate?
Yeah, that's actually how I work with my clients. So the first thing I always do is do a kind of strategy development, a diagnostic audit, whatever you want to call it, because that really helps you or the founder of the company determine the focus for partnerships. Because as you say, a big problem with partners is that it means a different thing to different people. And even something so basic as a definition can be different across stakeholders in the organization, which means you're already starting from that shaky foundation. So getting everybody on the same page and really zoning in on where the opportunity is, focusing and actually trialing or executing on a certain motion, whether it be technology partnerships and integrations, whether it be affiliates, it doesn't necessarily matter which it is, and it can be different for all companies. But you really need to understand where that opportunity is, how you're going to approach it, and focus in so that you can execute effectively on each motion one at a time.
What are some signs that you have noticed that a SaaS company shows that they are not ready for a partnership? Early PMF is one of them, but what are some other indicators?
Yeah, I would say the other indicators are not having the kind of systems that a company needs in order to scale. So, for example, not having that ideal customer profile, as I've already mentioned. If you don't have a clear sales process, so for example, if you're still figuring out that direct sale, you don't really know why your customer might buy, you don't know what trigger points there are, you maybe don't know which segment of the market you're approaching. It makes it very difficult to find the right partners, because one of the main things that I always direct my customers to look for in partners is a shared ideal customer profile. So if you align with a company who targets the SMB market, for example, and your product is maybe very suited to the enterprise, that's not going to be a fit. And you won't necessarily know that, because oftentimes with startups, you have a broader customer profile because it's more opportunistic. And partnerships really works when it's less opportunistic and more strategic.
Yeah, it's great you mentioned ICP. I think a lot of focus is on, defining your primary ICP, then secondary ICP. Is there something like ideal partner profile? I was just looking into.
Definitely. Yeah. Ideal partner profile is very important. So, again, one of the key aspects of ideal partner profile is going to be a shared ICP. And that doesn't always have to be a broad ICP. So, for example, with companies, a lot of the time they might focus on different segments. So, they might have one really strong proposition in travel, for example. They might have one strong proposition in professional services, or within, one industry like travel, they might have different use cases and stuff like that. So if you can hone in on these very, very specific ideal customer profiles and find a partner that shares that you can have a joint value proposition towards that very detailed ideal customer profile, that's already very important. And with partnerships, I think rather than sales, it's not just about how that profile looks on paper. So with an ideal customer profile, you can really kind of list it and just target all the companies that fit in there. But with partnerships and with that ideal partner profile, you do have those elements of, company size and whether you have an executive sponsor contact and all of those kind of things. But you also need to look at relational elements. So, for example, engagement is a big factor in partnerships. You could have a perfect partner on paper, but if that, for whatever reason, the timing isn't right, or they don't have the right contact internally, or maybe they're focused on something different strategically that quarter, it can be as simple as that, that the partnership just simply won't get off the ground. But in a year or two, they could be your best performing partner if you come back later, kind of thing. So it's definitely very important to have both of those, yeah, let's say on paper characteristics, but also the more relational ones as well.
Great. Suppose a SaaS company has established a partnership and what mistakes have you seen SaaS teams make that kills the partnership within the first year?
Yeah, definitely. So back to the strategy piece, just
Yep.
going for it and doing trial and error. I sort of grew up in the startup world, so I definitely know the benefit of just getting out there and doing things. But it's definitely not the only tactic that you can rely on. You definitely have to have a focus. You have to have a way of looking at it and not just trying to establish a partnership with any company out there. And that's a very key difference between sales and partnerships, because with sales, typically more is better. But with partnerships, volume approach is definitely not the right one. You want to focus on quality, not quantity. And that's a very key mistake that a lot of companies do. Actually, going back to my reason for starting my own company, I really saw that some companies make a resource mistake in terms of hiring a lot of the time. So oftentimes companies will hire a more junior employee or someone who doesn't really have any experience in partnerships and let them go figure it out. And while, that can work out if the person is a superstar, oftentimes they flounder a little bit because they don't really know the right way of approaching partnerships, and a lot of mistakes are made. And since partnerships can take a little bit more time to really see the impact, you don't know whether you've failed until you've invested a lot of time, energy, and resources into that effort. And then that person is essentially set up to fail from day one, which is unfortunate. The other mistake is hiring too senior. So you're just starting out with partnerships, you're kind of making those first relationships. And if you hire someone that really wants to be the head of a large partner organization, they're going to focus on more of the back office process aspects, which are extremely valuable, don't get me wrong. But what you may need at that point in time is not necessarily a scaled partner organization. It's just those proven cases with partners that are successful to get the ball rolling. And that's really where I feel I come in my role, because I am, as I mentioned, very hands on and I can get that ball rolling. But at the same time, I have the experience and ability to come at it from that strategic standpoint. So I'm able to support the organization from the strategic aspect while also helping them get uh, get the ball rolling.
Yeah. Is it hard to get the organization aligned internally when a partnership deal is getting signed? Because that's a lot of chaos, co-selling, co-marketing, enablement. There's a lot of stuff happening internally. So is it an easy task to get teams get aligned internally?
No, I would say probably generally not. It's very challenging. That's why the role of a partner professional is challenging. But I would say it is very interesting to see that when there is an executive sponsor, and particularly when the CEO is a partner person, it goes so much smoother and faster, because partnerships, I always say, works much better as a strategy than as a tactic. So from a top-down perspective, if your organization is geared towards partnerships and you're able to align all of the different areas of the organization, like customer success, like sales, like marketing, whatever it may be, if all of those departments have an undercurrent and alignment with partnerships, the partnership process is so much smoother and faster. Whereas if you have a leadership team that isn't necessarily pro partnership and they're maybe skeptical or they're doubting or they don't truly believe in it and they see partnerships as something that should be delivering first, or something that's maybe a resource suck as opposed to a supportive measure, those are actually the partner organizations that struggle a lot more because they don't have that backing, they don't have that alignment throughout the organization. So, it's not impossible, of course. Leadership can always be convinced in a lot of ways, but I definitely see the most successful partner organizations having a true believer of partnerships from the top and having that alignment across teams and across leadership.
Great. I saw on your website you have that partnership maturity assessment. What are some stages of maturity? What have you seen throughout those assessments you have done for B2B SaaS companies? What are
Yeah,
some
so
stages?
we've covered a few of those. So, for example, the not yet finding product market fit, but maybe they already see the opportunity to partnerships. I would say that's more on the immature side of things. So, that's really where you might focus on one or two strategic partners, but really not invest in building out a broad, scalable partner organization just yet. Then there's companies that have maybe explored a few partnerships, they've worked successfully on a few deals with a few partners. There, I would say the partners or the partner organization is ready to be developed and to scale. That's typically actually where I come in most of the time. So they're ready to build out a successful partner motion. And then once that's done, which is also another stage of where I often come in, they have that kind of, they have successful partnerships. They know what's working. And that's when they really need to level up and build out more of a program, apply more resources. The case has been proven. They understand that it's successful. They know how to work with their partners. And really, it's just about doing it more. So then the volume becomes a little bit more important. And it's really just about keeping everything organized and making sure that the right partners are still getting the right attention when there is more volume than just those kind of basic and very personal, successful partnerships that have already been built naturally.
How do we prioritize our attention to partners? How often should we talk to each partner? Like, what is the ideal
Yeah,
time?
it's a tough one for a lot of partner managers. I've seen many partner managers struggle with this because, of course, time management is a big aspect. You can't give always as much resource as you would like with every partner. So I would say there are a few factors that I look at when it comes to prioritization. I mentioned one before, engagement. So partnerships are a two-way street. It's not just you knocking down their door at all times. It's not you investing everything into the relationship and struggling to get anything out of them. So always prioritizing the partners that really give something back and have a shared vision for how things should be working and have the ability to actually execute as well. Another one would be that alignment in terms of organization. So having that shared ICP, as we mentioned, that they fit into your ideal partner profile. It's not just opportunism that, you have one deal and you focus on them. It's really based on the criteria that you've set out for yourself and your ideal partner profile, the ideal customers that you're bringing in. So the goal, basically, of course, most of the time it's extra revenue. That's what all organizations want. But you could also look at other goals that you are trying to achieve with your partner. So, for example, are you looking to move up market? Many certain partners may help you achieve that, whereas other partners might bring in a lot of revenue in a smaller ticket size of customers. So, focusing on the alternative goals that you have, maybe it's a new market entry or internationalization, looking at alternative goals that aren't just related to revenue to align on partnerships. So, there are more for sure, but those are a couple of top ones that I always look for.
Great point. What is your tech stack recommendation for early stage SaaS companies? Is having a tech stack should be a priority for them?
I think oftentimes companies actually invest too early. So I always see tooling as just that, tools. Some companies invest in a partnership relationship management platform because they say, okay, we want to work with partners. Let's buy a tool and it will work. And that's most definitely not the case. And I think that's also a very difficult thing sometimes for the tools that are out there because they can be amazing tools, but if there's no strategy, if there's no engine behind that, the software is not going to get the job done for you. So, really understanding the processes that you have and having the right processes laid out first, having partners to put into that system, that's what I would always say. Focus on that first, really generate some revenue, see what works, what doesn't. And then when you have those processes mapped out, another thing that I help my customers with, that's something that you can then, yeah, configure the system to support. So building out the processes, having it set, and then picking the right system to fulfill those needs is something very important. On the tech piece, I think the CRM, of course, is something that you always should configure because that's what your salespeople are going to be working with. And when it comes to partner tech, I really enjoy using Crossbeam. So having account mapping, supporting, having tooling for that. And then also when it comes to PRMs or partner relationship management systems, I really like tools like Intro, for example. They enable you to actually have a shared pipeline with your partner, which was something I think definitely traditionally missing from the PRM space. It's not just about offering them resources and having it be very self serve, but you really need a space in which to share that pipeline and actually engage with your partner. And having that visibility over your joint benefit is really helpful when it comes to engaging partners.
Right. How do you approach situations when we have a right strategic fit partner for a long term strategy and a partner who can close deals faster? What should be our pick? How should we proceed with that?
Yeah, it's a good point. I think, I mean, in an ideal world, you can actually use both. So, depending on how you organize your resources, you can have maybe just a different way of engaging with those. Perhaps you focus in a certain way on closing deals faster on maybe a shorter term plan, and then you ramp up. You have maybe a longer term goals, different types of goals that you achieve with your more strategic partner. So, yeah, in an ideal world, I think both of those can coexist. But what I would also say is going back to what's your organizational goal? If your organization's key strategic goal is that you need more revenue now, prioritize the shorter term revenue because that's going to align and push your organization forward. And there will be time later, maybe for that longer tail partnership. However, if you're really focused on sustainable growth, if you want your company to be around for a long time and that is really going to pay off in the long run, then perhaps putting that resource into the strategic partnership and understanding that, okay, we're not going to be revenue. It's not going to be revenue generating for a while, accepting that and then actually investing in that for the payoff in the end. I think sometimes when you do have to pick and choose, companies kind of want to have it all with one partner. So they are not happy that the shorter term revenue partner is not delivering strategic value or getting them anywhere in a strategic way, or they're upset that the strategic partner isn't delivering quick revenue. So I think if you can't do both, then really focus on one and accept the failings, let's say, of what that partner won't deliver.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on how AI has changed the partnership landscape? Because I think you have seen the pre-AI era of partnerships and how it is, transforming the world right now. So what are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, AI is a very interesting thing. And I think it's actually affecting and affected partnerships in a lot of ways. So, of course, from a workplace efficiency standpoint, I think that it's always very helpful. I mean, creating joint content, for example, with partnerships, doing partner marketing together, these are often tasks that partner managers had to be doing on their own or we're taking resource from marketing to execute on these things, and AI has made that easier. So I think it enables partnership teams to be able to execute with partners in an easier way. In the AI space itself, I think that's also a very interesting one for AI companies. Older companies aren't as fast moving as new AI vendors, for example. So everybody is trying to build in AI functionality to their product, but they're not never going to be as fast or as agile as that new AI startup. So I think that there's a really big opportunity for these AI companies that are popping up and traditional vendors, let's say. You actually see it with I believe it's Apple and Google. Apple, instead of building their own AI functionality, is partnering with Google. That's a massive, very influential partnership because you see Apple wants to move fast, so they chose to partner with a vendor that's doing it well. And I see that really with AI companies and bigger traditional vendors, where perhaps the small fish wouldn't be able to get the attention of those bigger vendors in other industries or other verticals. AI companies are really able to complement that and fill that gap for those companies. So it's a very interesting space to be in terms of partnerships. The last thing that I'll mention as well about AI and partnerships is that actually I think it's opening up an opportunity for organizations to leverage partnerships, specifically where outbound is struggling a little bit, as well as marketing is struggling a little bit. AI means that there's a lot of noise. So there's more outreach, there's more marketing, there's more content, there's a lot of less qualitative things that are being shouted about. And that makes buyers focus more on their trusted advisors, which are in a nutshell partners. So by leveraging the parties that already have the ear and the trust of buyers, you're able to actually get in the door where you wouldn't be able to in traditional marketing or sales channels. So I think that even though partners have already been, a way to lower the customer acquisition cost, to speed up time to value, to make bigger deal sizes, all of those benefits, I think we're going to see that even more increase because of the noise that AI comes with.
Interesting. So, KaraLynn, we have actually hit the 30-minute mark. I have rapid fire questions prepared for you. I think five or six. I do
All
that all
right.
the time. So, these are mix professional as well as your life tips. So, we'll be having a rapid fire round now. You can share your insights too if you want to. So, the first one is book recommendation, something you have read recently, your favorite of all time.
Ooh, that's a really good one. Well, feel like it's a really common one, but Atomic Habits is a really good one. I think systems thinking, I guess you could call it. So it's motivation can sometimes expire. So if
Yep.
you have a habit that you just do without thinking, sometimes it can be hard to create. But once it becomes a habit, you're kind of golden because you depend on it and it becomes not something that you have to think about, but that you just do sort of automatically. So that would be a good one. I think a good food for thought.
Interesting. Worst partnership advice you have seen on LinkedIn.
Worst partnership advice. I think I don't follow anybody that gives bad partnership advice. That's probably why. That is a good one I would have to think about. But I would say anything that is focused on sort of that detracts focus.
Yeah.
So anybody that says, oh, you have to do this, you have to do more, you have to do that, all of these types of things, or just, yeah, trying to partner with anybody under the sun, that's definitely a bad practice, I would say. Or investing in tooling before you have your partnerships figured out. I think that's also maybe a sales tactic that isn't best for the partner team.
I think there's a lot of advice on LinkedIn. Everybody is a partner specialist right now.
Yeah. You can always tell, though, I think there's a lot of partnership advice that maybe isn't being given by people that have actually been in the trenches, for lack of a better word. So I think if you see that, there's a lot of theory, yeah, it makes sense, but actually on when you're day to day working in a partner function, that doesn't always hold true, or it's maybe harder than it looks. So I think that maybe you should proceed with caution, let's say, if the person hasn't actually executed successfully.
Yeah, I have an interesting follow up detracting from the rapid fire. How do we cut through the noise on partnerships? How do we find the right person like they can help me with partnership? Because everybody is providing services nowadays.
Yeah, like I said, I think finding someone who's actually done it, I think that goes for life as well. If you are listening to advice on someone, it should be from someone who actually knows what they're talking about. And the easiest way is by, yeah, have they done it before? What have they actually delivered? I think that's important. They haven't just read a few books and now think they know everything about it.
Yeah. Hardest part about running your consulting business.
I think dividing the working in the business versus working on the business. I think this is something that a lot of consultants struggle with, especially if you are focused on delivering customer value, because of course the client needs and the client work always takes priority over anything else. So when it gets busy or when there's a lot going on in terms of client work, I tend to deprioritize the business development and the development of my own business. So balancing that, I think, is a very big challenge. And I think also I do actually really like being an external person. I think it's really a great opportunity to have a bird's eye view looking from the outside in at clients. It makes things very clear. But at the same time, you're not a permanent member of the team. So even though it's great to make impact and then get out, you don't necessarily always see the full fruits of your labor. So that's, I think, sometimes a difficulty. You're not a full member of the team.
An underrated partnership opportunity that SaaS teams are sleeping on right now.
Aligning partnerships with marketing, and maybe to clarify that even more, is applying marketing lessons to partnerships. So what I mean by that is that I see marketing gets a ton of budget. They maybe less nowadays, but still they're a traditionally high budget team. They also do a lot of data. At least the marketing teams that I've worked with, they do a lot on data. They track a lot. There's a lot of attribution discussion, all of these types of things. And I think partnerships is traditionally a little bit more fluffy. So because it's a relationship business, a lot of people kind of stick to the fact of, okay, it's not predictable. We can't track anything. We can't do anything. We can't measure anything. And I think that that's something that is definitely getting better in partnerships. That's something that I've improved on my career, and I've seen a lot of other partnerships professionals do so as well. But I think that if partnerships and marketing align better, then all of those sort of attribution, tracking, campaigns, all of those types of things applied to the principles and foundations of partnerships could be a match made in heaven, but that's often underutilized, and partnerships tends to cozy up more with sales as opposed to marketing. So I think that strengthening the relationship between partnerships and marketing would do a lot of benefit for both partnerships and marketing.
Yeah. And the last one is, what do you miss most about Canada?
What do I miss most about Canada? My family and friends, I have to say. The people. I'm also from the east coast of Canada, and the people there are also just super friendly and warm and lovely and amazing. So whenever I go home, I really love to be with them, be around them, and it always gives me a warm, fuzzy feeling. So I do miss that. And I also miss the raw nature, I think, being around just, yeah, being able to kind of step out your door and actually be in proper nature and not necessarily a manicured park. I miss that as well. But the Netherlands is also a great place to be as well. So no complaints.
Great. KaraLynn, this was awesome. Thank you so much for doing this. And yes, we'll stay in touch. I've been following your content a lot on LinkedIn. I get to learn a lot about that. And I think it would be valuable for our readers and listeners too. So thank you so much for coming as the second guest of this podcast. So,
Thank you. No, I really appreciate the invitation. And I also, yeah, always great to meet someone who appreciates my content. So I'm very happy and flattered as well to hear that. And I hope that anybody listening, it will help them on their partnership journey.